walked into the bank like he had 100 times before, confident, calm, dressed in a tailored suit. But this time, something was different. The manager's eyes narrowed. Whispers followed. And then, without warning, a slap. In front of customers. In front of cameras. No one knew who he was. Not yet. But when the truth came out, the silence in that room was louder than the slap itself. What kind of world lets this happen? And what happens when the victim holds more power than anyone expected? Marcus Langston was no stranger to success. At just 38, he'd built a multimillion-dollar tech firm from the ground up. He was the kind of CEO who still drove himself to meetings, still shook hands with interns, still remembered what it felt like to be underestimated. On this particular morning, he had one simple task: deposit a check. The bank was local, familiar, and quiet. He parked his car, adjusted his cufflinks, and walked in. Just another man in line. No entourage. No fanfare. Just Marcus. The lobby was clean, sterile, humming with quiet transactions. A few glances followed him as he stepped up to the counter. He greeted the teller politely, handed over the check, and waited. But something shifted. The teller hesitated, eyes darting to the manager's office. Moments later, the manager emerged, stern, cold, and already suspicious. Marcus didn't flinch. He'd seen this look before. But what he didn't know was how far this encounter would go, and how public it would become. The manager didn't ask questions. He demanded answers. "Where'd you get this check?" he barked, loud enough for nearby customers to hear. Marcus calmly explained. It was a business deposit from his company. But the manager wasn't listening. He was scanning Marcus's clothes, his skin, his posture. "This doesn't look right," he muttered, snatching the check and walking away. Marcus stood still, his heart steady, but his mind racing. He'd dealt with subtle racism before, dismissive tones, second glances, assumptions. But this was different. This was open hostility. The manager returned with 2 security guards. "We're going to need you to leave," he said. "This check is fraudulent." Marcus asked for an explanation. He offered to show ID, business credentials, even his company's website. But the manager wasn't interested. "You people always have a story," he sneered. And then, in a moment that would later go viral, he slapped the check out of Marcus's hand, and his palm grazed Marcus's face. Gasps echoed through the lobby. A woman dropped her purse. A man pulled out his phone. Marcus didn't retaliate. He didn't raise his voice. He simply reached into his briefcase, pulled out a folder, and handed it to the nearest security guard. Inside, incorporation papers, IRS filings, and a Forbes magazine cover with Marcus's face on it. The guard blinked. The manager froze. The room went silent. The manager's face drained of color. He looked at the folder, then at Marcus, then at the security guards, who were now backing away. One of them whispered, "He's the CEO." The manager stammered, trying to recover. I didn't know." But it was too late. Customers were filming. The bank's regional director had already been tagged on social media. And Marcus, he stood tall, eyes locked on the man who had just humiliated him. He didn't yell. He didn't threaten. He simply said, "You judged me before you knew me. Now the world will judge you." And with that, he turned and walked out, leaving behind a room full of stunned faces and a manager who had just become the face of everything wrong with corporate racism. The video spread like wildfire. Within hours, #SoWhileBlack was trending. News outlets picked it up. The bank issued a statement. The manager was suspended, then fired. But Marcus didn't stop there. He used the moment to launch a campaign, highlighting racial bias in professional spaces. He spoke at universities, partnered with diversity initiatives, and turned a moment of humiliation into a movement of empowerment. But the scars remained. Not just for Marcus, but for every black professional who's been doubted, dismissed, or degraded. This wasn't just about one slap. It was about the thousands of invisible slaps that happen every day, when someone's worth is questioned because of their skin. So the next time you see someone in a suit, or someone in jeans, or someone who doesn't fit your idea of success, ask yourself, what story are you telling yourself? And more importantly, what story are you helping write? If this story moved you, if it made you think twice, Or if you've ever felt the sting of being judged before being known, hit that like button. Subscribe for more stories that expose truth, spark change, and remind us that dignity doesn't come from titles. It comes from how we treat each other.